Hi guys, it's Hila here from Saturday Night Stitch. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's post is 5 Sewing Projects Episode 3. Kicking off this episode is the Seamwork Neenah dress from Colette Patterns. Now this is actually a turtleneck dress with long sleeves and it's knee length, but I obviously lengthened it to make it a bit longer. I was in the mood for a long dress during the winter. It's made in a light grey ponte fabric, which is comprised of 62% cotton, 36% polyester, and 5% elastane. And it's a whopping 64 inches wide, so you actually get a lot of fabric for your money. The pattern is available in sizes XS to 3XL, and I sewed up the size medium, and I think it kind of looks like what I expect it to look like based on the pictures. It definitely needs a broad shoulder adjustment. I totally forgot that most Colette patterns, they don't fit my broad shoulder very well, but it's not a real big deal with this particular dress. I love how it turned out. It was really dead easy to sew up, and I tend to prefer to wear it with a belt for the most part. Up next is the Colette Moneta knit dress. Now, I have made this sewing pattern about 8 times already, and this time I made it in a Lady McElroy viscose jersey, which is absolutely delicious. It has got the most beautiful drape, and I love the dark floral colors. So I have made this, I think this is the 9th one that I've made now. I probably should give the pattern a rest, but I love that neckline. 2 adjustments I've had to make to this pattern are a broad shoulder adjustment. As I mentioned with the Neenah before, I totally forgot that most Colette patterns, they're drafted for a narrower shoulder than mine. So with this one, I did a 5/8 of an inch broad shoulder adjustment, and it was just right. And the other thing that I did was I lengthened the bodice by about, I think it was 3/4 of an inch, so that it could sort of just sit a little bit below my natural waist. The other change I made to this particular pattern is that I used a neck band on the neckline. So sort of like, imagine what you would do on a t-shirt, but it's got pockets, because pockets are everything, and I just love how this dress absolutely moves and swings around. Sometimes I like to wear it with a belt, but that's not often, though. I do tend to forget to put the belt on, but it does look just as lovely with the belt. And I'm showing you the inside out there. It is classified as a beginner pattern by Colette. Personally, I wouldn't say that this is a beginner pattern. I probably say it's more of an adventurous beginner, and that's because of the shirring at the waist. So that skirt is a gathered skirt, and I think that would be very tricky for somebody who has just started with sewing. But I love how this turned out, and I love all of my previous iterations, so much so I am beginning to think that I could probably survive on a closet full of monetas. I think the collective term for having a lot of monetas is a coletterie of monetas. By the way, let me know which one's your favorite in the comments box down below. I think mine is the rainbow one. Anyway, moving on. Up next is a Simple Sew Shannon dress. And I made this in the absolute craziest, zaniest sweater jersey fabric that I got from Minerva Crafts. And basically it's a panel whereby you've got the big face zebra on one side, and then you've got the many zebras on the other side, and each panel is about 1.2 meters long, or 1.2 meters long, and it's about the normal width of a sweater knit. So I was able to get this dress out of one panel, but it was just something that really attracted me. So I knew that the fabric had to be something simple, obviously, because the fabric has to just be allowed to sing, because it is just so zany. I honestly had never come across jersey panels before, and I was not at all disappointed in the quality of the actual textile itself. It is very comfortable and very smooth against the skin. I finished the neckline with just a simple strip of the same sweater fabric. This was a very satisfying project in the sense that, number one, it's a super fast project to sew up. I kid you not. This probably took me about 45 minutes to sew it up, because it doesn't have any sleeves either. You just have to do your hems. and it took me a little bit longer to do the hems because I was using the cover stitch machine. So number one, it's a super fast make, and then number two, it's incredibly comfortable as well, which I think is a great thing to have in your wardrobe. The pattern itself also comes as a collection, so I think it's actually called the Shannon dress collection. So you get a t-shirt pattern, a dress pattern, and you also get these really cute sailor wide leg trouser patterns that come with it that you can make into trousers or shorts as well. So that's pretty awesome. And if you're wondering, I sewed the size 10 based on bust, waist and hip measurements, and I was quite happy with the fit. And as you can see from this video, it would look just as great in a solid as well. I wanted to take 5 to show you how simple those sleeves are to sew up. So I basically sewed up the dress together first, and then I did the sleeve hem last, and it's a dropped sleeve, so it just came out really easily. Up next is a simple sew cocoon dress. Okay, heads up, I love this pattern and I have made it twice already. Once in a linen chambray fabric and once in a Nani Aero quadruple gauze fabric, I believe. And it feels like I'm wearing pajamas when I'm wearing the Nani Aero one. So when I got this bark cloth fabric, it's a Cloud 9 bark cloth fabric, I loved the vibrant print. I loved the accents of the oranges and the yellows and the really pseudo 50s style that I got from the print. So I knew that the pattern had to be a very simple one that didn't have a center front or a center back seam, and so I decided to make it into a cocoon dress, and I'm very happy with that. Now the fabric itself has got very little give across the grain, so unlike the linen version that I made before and the Nani Aero gauze version, they tend to give across my hip area, but this one had absolutely no give at all. Consequently, it's just a little bit, just a tad bit snug around the widest part of my hip. It's fine if I'm not moving. If I wanted to take a Pinterest worthy picture and just stand there, then yeah, but you make garments that you can move in, you know. So I had to add those slits at the side just so that I'd be able to walk with my wide stride. What has become clear to me is that I'm gonna need to chop this dress. Sadly, it will have to be chopped. With the inside out view, you get a really good idea of how big the pockets are, and you can see how the bark cloth, because it's such a textured fabric, it's sort of sticking to my leggings, but when I'm not wearing the leggings, it doesn't stick to me at all like that. And there's the facing there, and for the facing I used a Lady McElroy cotton lawn fabric. I think it's called Botswana Woodlands. It was a leftover from a Giselle maxi dress that I made, and because it had a facing, I had the opportunity to put my tag on there, which is something that I absolutely love doing. So I'm just showing you here how this is going to have to be cut to make a top that has got pockets, side seam pockets, and I think that that is going to work for it. I'm just going to cut it straight across the widest part of my hip where it is the most snug. And that's the best way I think that I can save this project. I have considered sort of opening up the side seams and then inserting some more fabric, but Up next is from Burda 12/2018 dress number 109. Now this dress, guys, this was my first time sewing in silk, and heads up, spoiler alert, it is not 100% perfect. I tried my best. I had so much fun with it, and I am so glad that I pushed myself to actually try and sew with silk, which is a fabric that I had been scared of for the longest time. So two things that I really love about this dress: that fabric, honestly, that fabric feels so gorgeous and lush against my skin. if there is ever a fabric that made me feel like, it's a cloud's kiss, this is what this fabric feels like. So consequently, the word that I think of when I describe this dress or how it makes me feel is it's sensuous. This fabric feel, the skin feel of the fabric is very sensuous. And I'm just pointing out there that because of the drape of the fabric, the invisible zipper, it's made out of polyester and it's plastic. It's a little bit stiff. It really shows up with the stiffness. And I think that, if I were to work with this fabric again, I would probably make something that is bias cut, that doesn't necessarily require a zip or anything like that, because it is such a gorgeous fabric. And I think the style also looks good with a belt too. And just so you know, this is a Burda and I cut it in a size 38 because that's my Burda size. I also did a sewing tutorial for this actually, which I'll put in the description box down below. So it's got the step-by-step sewing tutorial. And you can see there the side seams look different because during the tutorial I was showing you the different ways that you could do a side seam. And of course there's the invisible zipper at the back. There are also some shoulder dots at the back that give it some shaping, and some bust dots that give it just a little bit of shaping on there. And that flounce, oh my gosh, that flounce is just so sweet and too cute for words. It is cut on the bias, so it does look a little bit wonky sometimes. The style itself is more 20s flapper style, so you could add shaping to it, but I actually really like it the way it is. And you can see there the armhole facing and the neckline facing. Overall, I'm very happy with this. Hi guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed the video, that you found it entertaining, useful and informative. And if you did, do give it a big thumbs up down below. If you aren't already, then please do subscribe. I put out sewing related content literally every week, sometimes twice a week as well. I would love to know which one was your favorite of the garments that I showed you today. And do remember, if you've got any questions at all, hit me up in the comments down below. And until I see you next time, guys, keep sewing, keep smiling, and keep finding joy in life.